insert it will not allow any modeling construct, but definitely from the XML file I think you can definitely create, because it supports the XML file, and internally in fact it generates the XML file. So if you see the tool that includes the TimeNet, CPN, Petri, these are the tools basically which you can directly open, and these are the open access tools also with some limited features which you can download from the internet, and where you can start to use it, and you can download the XML file generated. You can see what kind of what is the format of that XML, and accordingly if you can give as an input though that XML file, probably it will be able to generate the model itself.
Okay. Similarly, same model can be also downloaded after creation of the pattern net and state graphs, those kind of things, like UML diagrams.
Model download means what?
After creation
What
of
you
the
want to say?
pattern net.
I mean, that will be remain in your PC only. What I mean, definitely you can take the XML file, or in fact you can take the file of that model, and you can use it wherever you want, which supports, for example, if you have make a model in the CPN, then definitely wherever you want to run that CPN model, that the system should contain that CPN too.
Yeah, because what my thought process is it possible to use the Petrinet model to simulate any process by taking automation using the Petrinet?
Yes, yes. For the automation also, you can easily use the Patrinet, and it will give you the simulation behavior. And you can there is a feature known as token game. When you click on the token game, you can see like in the runtime how your process is behaving, from which state to which state it is going, and you can also verify the functional requirements, whether it is fulfilling the functional requirements. So from the token game. So this is the first step basically when you really verify your system, whether your system has been modeled correctly or no. So for that you can understand the behavior by the simulation.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other question? So thank you, Dr. Lilith Singh, for your nice presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I hope we will get your supports for the even upcoming workshops and the FDPs.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So now we are reaching to the second session for the end. Next session will be start at 3:30. Thank you very much. So can we start session, sir?
So whenever you feel comfortable, we can start.
Yes, sir. Participant is here. So
Okay.
very good afternoon, sir, and dear participants. Today we welcome Dr. Santosh Kumar Vishwakarma from IIT Indore. Dr. Vishwakarma is the leading the nanoscale device and VLSI circuit and system design research group in the Department of Electrical Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Indore, since August 2010. He has received his doctoral degree for the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, India, in 2010. Before joining IIT Indore, he was with Unique Kaiser, Norway, as a postdoctoral fellow from January 2009 to August 2010. As of now, he have 16 PhD scholars have been graduated under his research group, and 5 PhD scholars are carrying his PhD thesis under his supervision at IIT Indore, apart from several MTech and the BTech students in his group. He is currently working toward the SRM design, architecture, reliable, secure, and energy efficient circuit, digital ASCII oblique SOS design in memory computing, SoC oblique FPGA based CNN hardware accelerators. As of now, he's completed 9 research projects and 4 research projects are going in his group, funded by the DST, MHRD, MEIT by CSIR, Academy of Finland, Research Council of Norway, and National Research Foundation of Korea. He has a very strong collaboration with the industry, academia, partners across the India and globes. He is a senior member of IEEE, ACM, Institute of Nanotechnology, VLSI Society of India, Indian Microelectronics Society, Vigyan Bharati. He has been reviewer of the several SCI reputed journal. He was the founder, faculty in charge, industry relationship and placement at IIT Indore. He is also convener, Center of Innovation, Incubation, Entrepreneurship, and the Industry Relations at IIT Indore. He was also founding head of Center of Futuristic Defense and the Space Technologies at IIT Indore. At present, he is the Dean of Students Affairs at IIT Indore and Associate Professor in Electrical Engineering Department. Sir, it's a great pleasure for us that you are here to deliver the talk. Sir, please kindly share your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek ji, for a wonderful introduction. And kindly allow me to share my screen.
Sorry,
Abhishek ji, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
All right, thank you. Right, so thank you, Abhishek ji, for this wonderful opportunity for such esteemed attendees. So I'm not sure the background of attendees, but the topic which I'm going to cover will be the edge artificial intelligence computing, and primarily for the drone. Drone can be the one application. However, this kind of hardwares which are going to be compute at the edge, not on the cloud, can be very much important on similar applications. Okay, so okay, moving to the contents of my presentation. Probably we will little bit talk about the introduction of the research groups, then the IoT architectures in the systems, because these drones are going to be connected with the Internet of Things, or if with the RF, or with the GPS, then what kind of architecture would be, particularly if we are dealing the Internet of Things architectures and the systems, embedded systems, the hardware and software aspect of the design for edge artificial intelligence application, right? And design methodology and platforms, and the CNN blocks, the AGI blocks for the implementation of the network. There we will talk about the activation function, the MAC unit, and IMC units. So the idea is that if these hardwares are going to deploy it on the drone systems or similar such systems where the computation used to be happen on the edge itself, where the computer visions or the image processing things are going to be interface, then what kind of hardwares are needed? Okay, so that is what we will discuss. Okay, so this is my research group, the research group called the Nanoscale Devices Substitute System Design. This is my web page, and those who are interested, they can have a look. So we have the presence of the Twitter and Facebook and almost all the things. And primarily, we are working in the memory design, and nowadays more towards the AI hardwares, focused towards the memories. So what kind of reliability, security things are needed for this kind of memory computing? So one can store the information into the memory, or one can perform the operation into the memory. So for the AI application. So this is all about the research activities. So those who are attending this lecture first time, I should share with them that I've started my career with the non-conventional MOS devices. For example, the FinFET, For example, the other tunnel fades and so on and so forth, and their circuit application, primarily the memories. But over the years, we have expanded our networks where we were supposed to interface with some sensor and then various modules of analog and digital and RF interfacing with some IoT systems and then trying to design some systems. But last couple of years, we were more focused towards a system on chip level kind of things, which turns out of one of the outcome of the any application that can be the IoT modules, which can be deployed on a drone or even IoT modules or even any kind of intelligent systems, right? So we have been expertise last 10 years or so, where our students and research groups are competent enough to make various ASICs or the system on chip for the particular application. At the same time, we are also dealing the various hardwares and optimization for the AI or computer vision applications. So it's very, very important that we need to understand the importance of the AI chips and its market. Whatever one has to start, we need to understand first its market. Right? So if you see this, slide, then you will realize that it's like a very growing field, right? So now today, 2021, if you see this bar chart, something like that, right? Let me take the laser point. So even if you see this, right? So this is in North America, then Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and then Asia Pacific, and so on and so forth. And if you see from 2015 onwards, right? So I mean 20 onwards, it's like growing like anything. So the forecast says that by 2024 or so, almost all part of the regions of the world, right? This is going to be the huge market, and hence it's very, very important to learn and understand the concept behind the AI chips, primarily the communication part, the sensing parts, the hardware parts, and data analytics parts. Many parts are going to be there, right? So in fact, the image processing part, and so on and so forth. And there are wide variety of industries and research institutions, those who are already jumped and they have already renowned AI chips in the market. Some of them are working on the FPGA side. Some of them are working towards the CPU side, GPU side, and so on and so forth. So this slide is the classification of these hardwares in 2018 and 2025. So the forecast says that if you try to classify, there are various categories actually of the AI chip market. So the global AI chip market is the first category where we are more concerned in this particular lecture, is based on the silicon chips. So if you try to classify based on the chip type, so the first category can be the GPU, graphical processing unit. So in 18, the market was not really very good, but even ASIC market is going to be the highest in 2025. But at the same time, if you see the field programmable gate array, that is also going to be much comparable than the ASICs. So there's a fight among all the industry partners and academic institutions to develop an efficient and inefficient, can be in terms of energy, can be in terms of area, can be in terms of power, and so on and so forth. So the tiny ASIC chip, application-specific integrated circuits, can be used for that application, or let the people make the field programmable gate array, for example, the Google, for example, even Intel, all big industries, they have already very sophisticated FPGA, which can be replaced by the GPUs. Okay, so if you see the size of the ASIC is very tiny, FPGA is a little bit fine, a little bit, right? But CPU and GPU are much in size. The size of these devices are going to be much, much larger. So that will not serve the purpose of the edge computing, where the sensors are going to sense the data, compute itself on the edge itself, and take the decision. So like drone, okay. So the drone, if you see the drone itself is a very lightweight device, right? Where you cannot have a very bulky device which used to compute, and there are multiple applications of the drone where decisions time, or you can say the latency, is very, very important. I mean, like for example, a very strategic application. So it's not possible that the computing device should send some data by the sensors and send all those data to the cloud, and then it will take minutes and minutes or a couple of minutes to come, and then as a base station or even the drone, you should act accordingly. That will be, you know, some, so depending upon the strategic application, edge artificial intelligence computing is very, very important. So where the latency time is supposed to minimize. So what exactly we should do? We should do the computing, sensing, and decision on the edge itself. So that should the whole story to design the ASICs in a particular edge of AI applications. But of course, if you think about the IoT, some drones they are going to compete with the IoTs, right? And some drones with RF communication, right? But you know, these are the various applications of the IoT, right? Where things are really going to be controlled. For example, if you are, there are multiple drones which are going for the particular job, right? So they have to communicate to each other. That can be controlled by the remotely from the base stations, either through the RF communication or through the internet, right? But internet is going to be the under pathetic things, because if the security is a big concern, otherwise you can also think of the public transport, agriculture, health, smart cities, automotive, and smart automation, and so on and so forth. So these are the areas where IoTs are going to play the major role. Coming to a very important slide about the cloud computing and edge computing. So what is edge cloud computing? Just now, for example, if this is a drone, okay, and you have mounted some sensors on the drone, right, and you are flying those drones for the particular application, and the application is very strategic. So what you should expect, the decision should be in quick, very quick, right, in a fraction of a second, not even microsecond or so. Rather than sending the data from the drone to the cloud and then coming back, and then your drone could be controlled. So that is not. So for those kind of very strategic application, edge computing is the most favorable device. For example, over here, if you see the AI using cloud server, so that's possible, because if you see about all those servers, those who are remotely located, first you have to send something, then you have to take the action, analyze the things, request come, and the command. So it will the latency time is very high. Here it's like AI device, for example, the smart phones or even drone, where decisions and action, everything should be very, very good. So this is all about the edge computing. Okay. So in drone also, now when you are trying to interface with various images, right, as the input or the video as the image, right? So then you have to compare, and you have to run the run on the machine learning part on the same hardware. So it should be designed in such a way that it will be very efficient. So today we will talk about the hardware requirement of the edge AIs. Okay. So basically, this is the one example where the recognition and tracking system is being shown, where the cameras, mics, and these are the sensors. Okay, and then inferencing part can be done. But in case you want to go with the local, you can say the cloud level, then you have to send all those things. Learning part will be there, the training the data set, inference, and then finally you do this. Right? So this will take time, right? So yes. So this is the cloud server element. This is the devices server, right? So, but nonetheless, in all those communication, both the communication system, right, either in the edge or the cloud, we have to play with huge data sets, because the sensor will keep continuously taking the sensor data from the sensors. So which data is relevant for us? That is the data mining, data generation, data store, data processing, and actionable insight. So this is how we reach to the artificial intelligence. Otherwise, if you just keep sending and no analysis part would be there, then no action, then of course with the big data. So, but nonetheless, we are going to play with the huge data sets in both the communication system. So your computing device, either on the edge or on the cloud, should be very efficient, very efficient in multiple ways. Now, this is the complete IoT systems where this is the radio blocks, radio frequency blocks, and where the power amplifier is there, mixer block is there, DAC and baseband max signal. And then we have to have the computing blocks with including the CPUs and ADC, and then the protocols, communication protocols, I2C, SPI, UART, and then we have to have multiple other blocks. So this is the complete blocks which are also going to be placed in the drone also, because there we need the computing block, the storing block, the communication block. Sometimes people used to do with the RPI, right? The receiver side, base station side, and 2 different locations. And sometimes we have to use the different processor kind of, for example, Vega processor or some other processor which are going to deploy the drone. Okay, but nonetheless, these hardwares can be utilized, irrespective of where they are going to be controlled by the internet or even with the RF signals. Okay, so Raspberry Pi, ARM, these things also can be controlled and deploy on the drone so that you can. But if you think about, and if you are going to play a drone, which is where the inputs are also imaged, and there also you are going to play with the machine learning techniques, then the specialized hardware, for example, this hardware or this hardware can be designed very efficiently, right? So, for example, this is the Intel Edition board, and is a tiny platform which is having the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth modules, processor, microcontroller, and low power DDR3 storage, this much storage, and so on and so forth. Right? So these IoT boards are going to be placed on the drones. So this is the another view of the same board, having the Intel Atom processor board, dual core 500 megahertz, then Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, eMMC, embedded MEMC for the storage. Okay, and then power management IC and so on and so forth. But in nutshell, in any of the hardware, right, where the drones or anything are going to be interface either with the RF modules or the IoT modules, so they are going to be have this kind of properties. Can be the form factor. So, for example, if you are going to deploy a bigger device having the AI and machine learning capability on the drone, right, which should be in larger in size. Even the battery which is going to be placed into the drone, right, which is going to be controlled the R4 wings and something like that. So the form factor of the circuits as well as the other peripheral devices should be very small as much as possible. At the same time, since these are going to be controlled with the security, the hardware security should also be embedded into those. Now the power source is another issue in the drone system or any such UAV system also, right? So the power source which are going to be embedded so that to increase the flight time of the drones. So for example, if you are using the 500 mAh battery, so the flight time of those drones, either lightweight one, is not more than 30 minutes or 40 minutes. So at the same time, the same battery is trying to interface with various sensors and interfacing and trying to compute with the computer vision part, comparing with the images which you are taking and so on and so forth. So even that time, if you're supposed to make a bigger drone, right, then of course you cannot put heavy batteries. Otherwise, the flight time will be much smaller. So these are the few challenges when you are thinking to design a complete hardware of the drones, right? So, and the most power hungry part of any kind of system is the radio frequency block. Just now I have shown you radio frequency block consume the highest power because there the sensors data used to take continuously and monitoring and then data mining and so on and so forth. Right, so these are the radio frequency block with the transmitter and receiver, which need to be designed in such a way that it should consume the ultra low power, so that the flight time of those devices should be as much as possible. Now, reliability, of course, is the one concern, right? The circuit topology. Whatever circuit blocks are going to be either on the other blocks or the power blocks or the computing blocks, that should be designed with the ultra low power, because they are the most hungry of power consumption, right? Now, our devices, sensors, materials is under. So sometimes we have to use the gyroscope, sometimes we have to use other sensors, ultraviolet sensors, and so on and so forth on the drone, so that it used to monitor each and everything and then used to compute. So the sensing materials, right? And the accuracy of the sensors, reliability of the sensors, and many other parameters should be designed with those materials which gives the best result. So, right? So nowadays, with the Jammu Kashmir attack, right? This drone surveillance on the Jammu Kashmir airport or something like that. So now the government has come up with, and there is that no one can buy the drone without license. So they are going to issue the particular identification number. Then only you can do the research, or even you can use this prototype or something, right? Because this is looks like more dangerous than the gun, right? So like gun, you have to take the license. Similarly, the drones are going to be. So anyway, but nonetheless, what as of now we have learned that any kind of applications where we should think of, they should be designed very efficiently. The same concept is here once again. The lifetime of any such devices should be, they totally depends upon the source of energy is there, fine. For example, 500 mAh battery. But the average power consumed by those circuit and systems should be as small as possible, so that the lifetime of this battery should be high. Because there you have to interact with the physical worlds, right? Physical worlds. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Your audio is fine.
Thank you, because somebody was saying something.
Yeah,
So
sir. Maybe they have some issue.
Okay, all right. So what I was trying to explain is that the power consumed by the device which are going to deploy on the drone should be as small as possible, so that the lifetime of you can say flight time should be as much as possible. Because there we are going to interact with the physical constraints, user constraint, capability, interconnection, and so on, so forth, right? Because the sensors are always connected, right? So it's used to sense the signal, process the signal on the computing device, wireless, cost, security, many things are coming to the picture, right? So the meeting the power budget, sensing and doing the sensing and processing is under issues, right? The sensing the data and processing on the hardware itself, so the drone, and the total power budget of the drone, so that all the requirement can be fitted. So these are the things which we have to think very seriously. There are various applications where sensors are going to be deployed on the sensors and the drones. So for example, the resolution of those analog to digital converter, because there you are going to take the analog data, right? So there are multiple sensors where the resolutions is needed, not only 8, but depending upon the application, sometimes the resolution of ADCs are going to be more than 8 or 12 or 16, oftenly more than 12. Right. So depending upon the type of sensor which you have deployed on those drones or every application, the ADC should be designed in such a way. So oftenly this kind of application needs, for example, gyroscope, right? The gyroscope is needing for about 16 meters. So between this 12 bit to 16 bit resolution. So then depending upon the various applications, the ADCs are supposed to be designed. For example, if you are using some healthcare wristband, where ADC is needed, so there probably the 8 to 12 bit may not serve the purpose. So there you have to design your analog to digital converter in such a way that the resolution of that circuit should be more than 12 bit, more than 18 bits, and nowadays people have designed 32 bits ADC for the particular biomedical applications. Okay, so this is how one has to take the call which kind of applications resolution range should be required for various sensor applications. Coming to the hardware part, once again, I'll take you the Edge AI part. Okay, so this is the internal block diagram of a hardware where the edge accelerator is sitting. So this is the edge accelerators where in-memory computing is also sitting. So this is a specialized hardware, right, or kind of chip where the memory and performing processing is happening both. Generally in one human architecture, computer architecture, right? So storage can be done on the memory and processing can be done on the CPU. But in HI application, right, because the communication between memory and processing unit will take some time. So to avoid all those things, people thought of why to even take that fraction of minutes. So let us do computation as well as processing on the same chip. That is called the in-memory computing. So what exactly we have proposed in this embedded solution? That using these communication protocols, if this is a radio frequency block, which is going to interface with this power management units, and then here various sensors are going to be connected with the data converters and PLL and so on and so forth. Here also the I2C and protocols, communication protocols. And then using this interface circuitry, right, we have to use this some externally RISC-V processor. And then we have to also use off-chip DNN training and finding trained weights. So this is the off-chip communication, where, for example, if you are trying to design a efficient hardware architecture for hand-digit recognition system. So, for example, and there you are taking the MNST data sets, which is having 10,000 samples, right? So those 10,000 samples can be calculated on the either your CPU machine, laptop, or using the RISC-V processor software IP, which is going to be off the cell chip, not on this hardware chip. Okay. So using this RISC-V processor and DMA controllers and flash memory using these AHP buses. Okay. So using these buses, you are supposed to take all those data using this digital interface, local memory controller, and then finally you can have your own reliability and security circuits, which is sitting on the edge accelerators, and then finally you can compute. So these are the complete block diagram of the edge artificial intelligence chip, which is going to deploy on the drones. So the idea is that can we design and develop a very efficient in-memory computing units, which are going to be deployed on the edge side. Now coming to the deep learning, right? Right. So I believe that many of you might be knowing about the concept of the deep learning, machine learning, AI. And for example, in this particular video where the object detection and classification is being shown, right? So the same thing, what we have done in our laboratory, that we have designed a drone, and then the drone is, for example, deforestation. For example, there's a forest. So we have designed and developed a kind of drones where if anybody is cutting the tree or something for the forest, so the drone which will be there on the top of the forest will take the images, and already images will be there, is going to be compared with the machine learning techniques, and then they can find the exact GPS location where the deforestation has been happened. Okay, so those applications we have already used, where the machine learning part, artificial intelligence part has been deployed using Vega processors and Swദേശി microprocessor challenge. So our team is one of the finalists. I mean, one of the semi-final. We have submitted for the next round of things. But nonetheless, all those things used to be happen for the efficient computing. So because the hardware is needed to take the images using those sensors and finally compute it, and then finally take the decision. Right? So almost everywhere you have to find out the CNN. Okay, whether, for example, if this is the input image is a cat, and then you have to follow the weight and inputs of the images and the convolution layer, and finally you can find out whether it's dog or cat if you're going to compare, right? So the feature extraction can be done, then you have to apply various filtration techniques by which you can finally put it, and then you can find out the exact image. The same philosophy we are using in drone, okay, where it has been designed the drone with a very systematic manner for the deforestation purpose. But nonetheless, in the entire artificial intelligence techniques, these neural networks are going to play the major role. And even in one neurons, right? So synaptic weights are going to be, and then finally the input weights, input lines, right? And then in each weight and input line, there is a MAC, which is called the multiply accumulate operation. So, for example, X1 is the input, W1 is the weight. So X1 W1 multiplication plus X2 W2 plus, that is the summation, and then Xn and so on and so forth. And then along with that, we have to have the non-linear activation function. That can be the sigmoid, tan hyperbolic, or Swiss, or ReLU, whatever, depending upon your efficiency. And then with the combination of all those things, the neuron triggers the fires, right? So the issue is that if you have various neurons which are going to be utilized, so what should be the corresponding hardware? So that with the minimum given hardware, that is the FPGA board or ASIC board, which are going to deploy in the drone, with the minimum resources, right, the major computation part can be done. So that is the whole philosophy. So this is once again the basic neural architectures. Then this is the activation function. Okay. And then finally, using these activation function, either sigmoid or tiny hyperbolic or ReLU or swish or modified swish, right? One has to perform the operation. Okay. So once again, here what we have seen that this is the fully connected deep neural network, which demands the high logic resource utilization. So in the hardwares, if you try to compute with the images or the video or the audio, right, and there also you are trying to see the neuron processing, right, then of course it demands a high logic resource. But if in case you have a very less logic resource, then how to, so in the internal architectures of the image processing technique or something, we have to come out with some applications where with the limited these resources of the hardware, you should be able to perform your computer vision application. Okay. So this is how it's needed. And then finally, each MAC, which is going to be inside the neuron, right, in the hardware perspective, that is also going to be designed very efficient, right? That the multiplication and addition part can be done very smart, right? And so in all those things, sometimes you are supposed to deal with the RNN, and then sometimes you have to deal with the CNN, RNN, whatever you call it. But everywhere, from the hardware perspective, right, we have to deal with these things. So in the hardware perspective, coming to the various platforms, which are the platforms where these computer vision things can be done. So in early days, even few years before, right, even now also, GPU used to be act as a very good accelerators. But the issue is that the GPU is a little bit bulky. That cannot be deployed on the drone application. So GPU is fine, widely used in hardware accelerators for improving both training and classification processes in the CNN. This is due to the high bandwidth and throughput. So in GPUs, the bandwidth of the memories, right, is used to be very high. And the throughput of these GPUs are also going to be the same time they can work upon the floating and matrix flex operation. So there were a couple of advantages, also disadvantages. For example, battery operated devices became a challenge. That is a drone, for example, right? So people are looking for the alternate options which can be deployed. So FPGA and ASICs hardwares have relatively limited memory and IO bandwidth and computing resources compared with the GPU, but they have the moderate performance. So for drone applications, these moderate performance-based architectures, for example, the FPGA or the ASICs can be the most suited rather than GPU. Okay, so the throughput of the ASIC design can be improved by customizing memory hierarchy and assigning dedicated resources. So that is also one reason that people prefer the ASICs. And in the very beginning, I have shown you the ASIC market is going to be the next generation. And that is what in the hardware community, the VLSI community, people are love to design the system and chip ASICs based acceleration for the deep learning network. At the same time, the development cost, the cost, development cycle using these things are relatively better. Right, FPGA is the next alternate. That is what I can say in the nutshell, right? Which can be easily converted into the ASIC design. Now, FPGA also have one beauty that you can use multiple times. Okay, so as of now, we have spoken about the various advantages, disadvantages, and its drawbacks, and so on and so forth. But in nutshell, we have reached with a common consensus that the FPGA and ASICs are the most suited platforms, or you can say the hardware, for drone kind of applications. Okay. Now, the same thing we can understand with this picture, that the efficiency and flexibility. So ASICs and FPGA are more preferred destiny as far as drones application are concerned. Okay, but because you cannot deploy the heavy devices, or you can say those who are not inflexible in nature, because sometimes, in fact, we have also designed the drone in our lab where these sensors are deployed and many things. So there, sometimes we have to do repetitive works, right? So FPGA is the best preferred choice, or even IoT boards. Okay, where, for example, if you have embedded with some application, software application for the particular task, it doesn't work, then you have to come back, you have to do once again, and then do, and so on and so forth. So FPGA has an ability to perform the action as many as times. So that is also one reason where people are also trying to implement and validate using the co-design approach. Means some part people are trying to do on the software, and some part people are trying to do on the hardware side. Many things they used to do on the software side, usually, right? And then if everything is fine, then you can connect with the hardware and you can show application. So in this particular slide, Jaibo board 7000 series is being sold, which has a very limited resource, very cheap also. This board is not more than 20,000 rupees, or even sometime nowadays 10,000 rupees, lesser. So the cost is very less. However, flexibility in the feature, right? Many things are good in that. But at the same time, this Xilinx board has a limited hardware resource. I mean, the input memories, the many other blocks, but they have the limited resources. So how in algorithms level we can design our application for the drone so that with the limited resources, this AI machine learning computer vision part can be performed in the same limited resources hardware. So that should be the architecture, right? But coming to the digital design approach, which a majority of you might be knowing if you have learned sometime, that you have to have the theoretical design, I mean the specification. Then you can do the coding either VHDL or Verilog, and then finally you can make your circuit system, right? The same time, we have to do sometime analog design. I mean, each and every neurons can be designed using analog approach. I mean, the circuit level, and then finally you can tap out. Finally, tap out means the fabrication of the chip, depending upon requirement. So this slide, this is the one slide which shows that how you can make the ASICs or the system on chip, right? Where we have to have the first, the product specification. That what should be the power, what should be the clock frequency, and so on and so forth. And then finally, using this analog approach and digital approach, we have to follow everything. And finally, if all the things are very clean, all clean, then you can send your design for the tape out, or you can say for the fabrication of the chip. Once we have the final chip, you can send to the testing and fabrication of the chip. And then if it is very, very successful, even after testing, then that can be used for the commercial purpose. But this is the ASIC design flow which people has to follow. Now coming to the another part of the neural network, which is more often nowadays CNN blocks, right? So this is the, for example, the input, convolution 1, then pooling, convolution 2, and so on, so pull, and so on. So these are the steps which one has to follow, right? So for example, if this is the input image, then convolution level networks, and the after max pooling or something, one has to perform that what should be the filtration system, and then finally you have to decide whether the output is finally the input given image or something else, right? So these methods and techniques one has to learn if you are trying to design the efficient hardware, because we have to design this algorithm in such a way that with the limited hardware resources can be utilized, and you can perform the function. So this is all about the processing element. which encompasses of the MAC and activation function. Okay, so coming to the activation function, which is a very important block, right? So for example, here is the 10 hyperbolic function, activation function, sigmoid and ReLU. So what we have done, we have modified this function depending upon our requirement, and then these are the algorithms which implement the 10 hyperbolic activation function. Okay, in purely in digital design. Okay, using VHDL you can think of, and then we have compared the area, leakage and delay energy, and energy delay product, and area delay for the available things, right? For example, the quadratic based approach, a lookup table, and so on and so forth. So our results was relatively much better. Okay, almost all the parameters, and the same thing is shown over here with the area comparison of the ReLU function, Swiss function, Ellis function, and 10 hyperbolic function with the daily delay, leakage, and area. Okay. Now, just to cross check once again, so what we have done, we have taken the LEED architecture as a benchmark model, okay, where we have tested the MNIST data sets and the Cypher 10 data sets, okay. And then we have done all those things for the particular activation function design. And then we have computed the computation time as well as the test accuracy. Okay. So there also we have feel and we have realized that the proposed techniques offer the least computation time as well as the accuracy much better. Now, so as of now, what we have learned that the activation function. All right. Coming to the next block, which is going to be embedded on the edge AI for the drone or any such application, that is called the MAC, multiply accumulate function. Okay, so there if you see, the multiplier is the one block which is going to be sit nearby the addition, because the X1 and W1, the weight and bias, will come to the picture. Okay. Okay, so here if you think about the multiplier techniques in digital design, it's a circuit slide. So you will find the different variety of multiplier, right? So but all the multipliers are not really going to be useful in your application. So we have to check all implemented MAC units where the multiplier, for example, this is the Vedic multiplier, right? Where we have taken from the Atharva Ved, and then you can propose 8-bit multiplier, right, Vedic multiplier, and then find out the various advantages and disadvantages. And then we have seen the on-chip power for maximum 4-bit multiplier using MAC. Okay, so the MAC itself shows that, okay, this is the proposed one for the lookup table 12 and IO blocks 16 for the proposed one as compared to Vedic array and Booth. Okay, and at the same time, we can also have the comparison of the power for Booth multiplier, array multiplier, and UT. But nonetheless, we can also compare and see various images using these techniques, and then finally you can implement, and then finally you can synthesis of 8-bit multiplier, where it has been shown that the delay, logic power, energy, and critical path delay, when you implemented those algorithms on these hardwares, okay, which was not a very very sophisticated hardware, which was a very gyro board, which is a basic board of FPGA. What we have seen that even resource utilization, which we have seen over here, that the lookup table is only 34 and the IO blocks are 32. So what we have done at the algorithms level, right, we have reduced the requirement of the hardware, right? So once again, these are the ANN logic gates, and its implementation. For example, MAC, how we have implemented the MAC, and how we have implemented these logic gates like AND, OR, NAND, and so on and so forth. And then finally, it's like requirement, synthesis results, and then finally the total cell area, delay, and power. And then we have realized that the proposed ANN logic gates need less resources. Okay. This is another way of where we have implemented the MAC, right? So these are the shift operation, and then finally you can perform other functions, right? So there are multiple ways wherein we can implement the MAC, but the idea should be that whatever MAC we should design, that should be efficient. Efficient in terms of area, efficient in terms of the delay, that is the performance, efficient in terms of the power, because multiple such neurons are going to be placed in those hardwares. Okay, so this is the another way of designing the bit cell and the MAC, where we have introduced the philosophy of the power getting techniques, and then using those philosophy, we have also realized the same thing using non power getting techniques and with power getting techniques at two different technology node, at 180 nanometer technology node and 45 nanometer technology, where we have compared the area, dynamic power, static power, critical particle. And we realized and we feel that there's a much difference in the static power as compared to at 180 nanometer and 45 nanometer technology with the power technique and without, okay, which is shown over here. And finally, we have designed the MAC, that is multiply, accumulate, unit, using these techniques. So what we have realized that if you use this, and there also we have realized that 8-bit multiplication is the most appropriate over here. And if you see, if you go through in detail, then you will realize that the MAC which we have designed using bit cell approach, right? These are the experimental flow where we have designed these MAC, and then various power getting techniques and without power getting techniques and proposed power. So, and we have realized that the area, dynamic power, static power, critical delay are going to be very competitive as compared to others. And this is at the 180 nanometer technology node. This is 45 nanometer. So finally, what we have done, we feel that no, let us realize and some using some architecture. So linear architecture we have taken a CAFENet. There are also the managerial sets and ciphertext. We have checked for 32-bit, 16-bit, 8-bit, 4-bit data bit precision. And what we have realized that 8-bit is the most preferred destiny. Maybe the next slide shows here, if you think about here, so the 8-bit and 12-bit and 16-bit with the combinational area and critical path delay at 1 nanometer both. So what we have found that the 8-bit precision is the most preferred choice in terms of the delay, in terms of the combinational area. So we have decided that further investigation should have done only with the 8-bit precision. Here also once again the static power and dynamic power. And we have realized the same thing using the linear architecture. Okay, and then we feel that how many layers are supposed to be. So this is the hardware implementation of the linear architecture, that how many conventional layer and everything we have to do, right? So here we have resources. These are the resources, hardware resources, and these are the linear with conventional MAC and linear with bit MAC, the one which we have to design, and available resources, right? Percentage utilization and utilization with bit. What we have seen that only 46.1% bit MAC, if we are using bit MAC, then we have used out of this lookup table. Similarly, all those parameters are being shown when we have been implemented and ideas on Jaibo 7000 series ARM FPGA SoC development board. Okay, so so the idea is that we have to choose those hardware platform which should not be very costly. At the same time, we should not be very bulky in size or form factor. At the same time, for the complex algorithms, those hardware should be efficient. Okay. So here the analysis has been done whether we should use the 8-bit, 12-bit or 16. So in these experiments, we have realized that the Cordic-based approach, right, as compared to combinational, if you think about, then from 3307 to 685. So in case of 8-bit Cordic approach, almost all parameters are going to be reduced drastically. And number of cycles required is also 5 to 5, that is 1 to 1. But at least 8-bit Cordic-based approach, which was designed at 45 nanometer technology node, is offering the less area, dynamic power, leakage, critical fault, and number of blocks. So which itself shows that there is some issues, and hence in further studies, right, we have used the 8-bit precision data sets, right? And we have also realized that 4-bit, if you're going with a 4-bit to 8-bit, or even 2-bit to 4-bit to 8-bit to 12-bit, then there is not much accuracy difference if you're going to jump from 8-bit to 12-bit. So that was also one reason to decide the 8-bit precision. Okay. So we have proposed various kind of MAC architectures and activation function, right? At the same time, we have also proposed the activation function using this quadratic algorithm based. So for example, the green color line shows the complete sigmoid function. Here the select line, either is sigmoid or tan hyperbolic, right? So depending upon this cost and hyperbolic, this will go and trigger and act as a, either this function should be act as a tan hyperbolic or the sigmoid function. Okay. So here in this particular case, in one block, we have proposed the multiple activation kind function can be generated. Okay. And if you are using the multiple activation functions, then the required input and the information, or you can say the output parameters, are also going to be changed like anything. This is a physical parameter. For example, here the shift, Vedic, and proposed. So here we have used another technique of the proposed called the Cordic. So the Cordic is, in terms of area, static power, is under efficient, right? So here it is being shown. Okay. So with the power getting techniques and then the inverter circuits on techniques, many things has been shown, but I'm not sure about the background of the people. But nonetheless, what I'm trying to explain is that the hardware which are going to be utilized on the drone or any AGI computings, these chips should be designed in a very specialized manner so that the efficiency of those things can be optimized. Right. So these are the another important observation where we have shown the n-stage pipeline Cordic method. So here what we have replied is that this is the stage number 1, stage number 2. So how many stages should be there, right, which can enhance the performance of the architecture? So what we have realized is that 4-bit or maximum 5-bit should be available, right, so that our performance can be enhanced. So our study shows that the 4-bit or the 4 to 5 stages is sufficient enough, right, to improve the performance. For example, the low energy particle product and higher throughput 5 times, right, as compared to this iteration function. If you are going to use with that much stages. Okay. Now the last part, which is also going to play the important blocks, where because these MAC and activation function are stored somewhere. So in 1v1 architecture, generally, if you think about the conventional computing architectures, the memory block used to be there and processing block. So the job of the memory is to store or retrieve the data, and the processing block is to process the data, right? Even in simple laptop machine or something. So, but in this communication, bidirectional communication, right, it used to take some time. So people thought of, can we store and process both on a single device called the in-memory compute? So memory itself will compute as well as process the information. So there are multiple approaches where people have thought of, and people have really come out with various processing elements and the storage element, resistive RAM, SRAM, even many other architectures have already people proposed, which can be the next generation in-memory computing blocks, having all those features. Okay, for example, accuracy, throughput, latency, energy and power, hardware cost, and flexibility. So all those things are going to be really change the world like things where the computation as well as the storing the information can be done. For example, this is the 6 transistor SRAM cell where 6 transistors, MOS transistors are there, okay, where the read and write operation can be done. And these are the different classes of the memory type, which can be the future generation in memory computing. But what we have done in our laboratory that we have designed the power efficient configurable in memory advanced computing using 6 transistor SRAM cell. So here, if you see this 6 transistor SRAM cell is being shown over here, okay, and this is a sense amplifier. So what we are saying that there is a row decoder and there is a word line here, right? So this is the in MAC block. So these memories are going to store and act as a storage element. At the same time, they can also perform the operation. Operation can be the gray 2 binary, 2's complement, full adder, and so on and so forth. So this investigation we have done, right? At the same time, this in-memory blocks, so these are the complete memory array where the memory operation as well as the performance of the performed this operation has been shown. At the same time, we are also going to put the COT block over here, so that whatever operation it will perform, that should be more robust and secure using the TRNG and PUF. Okay, so these are the things which is being shown over here that we have implemented the gray to binary, binary to gray, 2's complement. So basically, these are the processing, and then finally storage operation. So this was done using 6 transistor SRAM cell. But later we have realized that there are multiple functions which cannot be performed using 6 transistor SRAM cell using this approach techniques. Then we have investigated another class of the memory called the 10 transistor SRAM cell, which is very efficient for the in-memory computing. So which the key feature of this are not shown in this slide, that the decoupled and read-write no disturbance. So generally the 6 transistor SRAM cell have various limitations. So that is all, they have all removed using decoupled and using efficient BNN, and many more additional operations can be performed. And we have very successfully demonstrated the in-memory computing and with the very power efficient techniques. So with this note, thanks to everyone, those who have joined. And now maybe we can have a chit chat session. Okay. And then I will be more than happy if there are some queries or any other things by anyone. Abhishek ji, are you here? Hello.
Hello, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Sir, your session is completed?
Yes, I have completed. But now forum is open. And if anybody wants to chit chat anything, I will be more than happy to otherwise already I have said I will share this PPT to you in case anybody wants.
Yes, sir. One question is there. They are requesting for the PPT of in PDF for the watermarking so that they can use for their further assessment.
Sure. That is not a bill. I will share the PPT to you, Abhishek ji, and then you can give to everyone at a meeting. And nonetheless, if anybody wants to take any help at any time, so I will be more than happy to connect my research group members also. So from my side done, now over to you. I don't know the process, whether you want to discuss something.
Any question from the audience side? Please. Okay. I think, hello, any questions from audience side? You just unmute and ask the question. Well, anyway, sir is always very helpful. I am connected with sir from last 4 and 5 years, and always he helped me and every time. So I make it sure whenever you need any type of clearance or help, sir will be always available to you. Sir, IIT Ram and as a coordinator of this SDP. I'm very thankful that you take you bring some of time for your busy schedule. Thank you very much, sir, and hope your guidance will be continuous with me, and you will further in future conferences also contribute, sir.
Thank you, Abhishek ji, and thank you to all the audience for your presence. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, Abhishek sir.
Yes, Dr. Jagat.
Sir, I think we can close the session for today, and tomorrow we can inform the participants that about tomorrow's session, and we can close the link for today, meet for today.
So thank you all the participants. All the 3 sessions is completed. We will take the common feedback at the last day on the Friday, that is the Friday. So next session will be start from 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. And there is a one little correction. Instead of 1:30 second session will be started at 1 a.m. Okay. So please keep note on that. I have already sent a mail for the SAM. Only one attendance sheet will be there for each day. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jagat. Thank you, participants. Now we are closing today's session. Thank you.
Yeah, let's close the session. Yes, sir.